Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Fran, and today I would like to make a podcast on science, destiny, tarot cards, and on looking for answers outside of ourselves. Now, I love hard facts, scientific evidence, statistics, and I especially love knowing the answers to things that interest me. I love a good debate with someone who disagrees with me, and especially with someone who thinks they have all the answers. All my life, I've disagreed with people for the simple reason that I wanted to see if I could crack their personal view of the world, to see if I could instill some doubt in them. And the reason I enjoy doing this so much is that I want to show them the relativity of truth, that their truth is nothing more than a well-rehearsed belief, a consequence of their life experiences, their education, their upbringing. Often I will disagree with someone who agrees with my version of reality simply to show them the subjective nature of their absolute truth. Now, both scientists and religious people are amongst the most dogmatic people I know. I know I'm generalizing here, but stay with me. And with them, atheists too are equally dogmatic. They are religiously unreligious. They have blind faith in the fact that our physical reality is all there is. The irony is that atheists tend to consider themselves more rational than religious people because they base their faith in the evidence or on the evidence offered by their senses. Usually scientists tend to be atheists as they see themselves as objective external observers of hard facts. Now, unfortunately for them, relativity first and quantum mechanics after or later on have proven this assumption to be mistaken. Relativity proved that space and time are relative to the frame of reference of the observer. So absolute time and space do not exist. Time dilation and length contraction have been proven mathematically. Quantum physics took these a step further by showing that particles of matter, or anything as it turns out, act as waves of information when unobserved, while they act as particles when observed. Not only that, but they appear to behave like one or the other depending on the expectations of the observer. When the observer is a Geiger counter or a particle detector, they act as particles showing up at one or the other possible places at random. This shows that while these machines, these detectors are obviously not bothered or not expecting the particles to show up at a specific location, they are particle counting devices. In other words, they are designed to detect particles. Because of that, they detect particles, not waves. But as they cannot direct their consciousness at will like a human observer, the result is a particle which goes through one or the other detector with a 50-50 chance at random. In other words, the randomness is not an innate quality of the particle, of the underlying reality. Rather, it's the quality of the observer. There is no randomness in the deeper structure of reality. The randomness is intrinsic in the nature of the observer. We think that we're observing reality, but really we are observing ourselves as reflected in outer reality. Old-fashioned scientists and religious groups are equally baffled by these findings. Scientists are baffled because if there is no outer reality to be observed independently of the observer, then this makes their job obsolete. Religious people are baffled because if there is no outer God outside of the observer or independent of the observer, if there is no evil to fight, then this makes their mission redundant. Personally, I love the implications brought about by quantum physics. There is no outer reality, and therefore there is also no outer deity. There is only our imagination, which is observation directed inwardly, and our free will, our freedom to choose what reality to experience out there through directed focus and attention. Now, when people ask for signs or listen to the horoscopes or tarot card readers, is because They believe that the future is already set out for them. It already exists. But if it were so, what would be the point of free will at all? According to physicist David Deutsch, and before him Hugh Everett III and mystic Neville Goddard, there is an explanation which combines scientific determinism, the principle according to which everything in the universe can be predicted in principle by knowing the state of the universe at present, with the free will that we experience as real and on a daily basis in everyday life. Every time we take a decision or make a decision or make a choice. And the only possible explanation which can allow both concepts to survive in the same reality is the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics. A multiverse of parallel universes, each with their own different version of the future. We are not changing the nature of reality with our choices. We simply select a different slice of the whole reality. Because of it, we cannot predict the future from our past. Although creation is already finished, the future is wide open. In other words, you can only select a slice of the future simply by directing your attention at will. By retraining your attention, you can create any future you desire. The process is really quite simple, but it does require a degree of discipline. Unless you want to reproduce your past over and over again, you need to be able to withdraw your attention from the evidence offered by the senses, which is the product of your past observations, and direct it inwards, and then to your preferred or desired reality. The reason that our lives become more or less predictable is that we keep observing the reality offered by the senses, which is the result of past observation or past imaginal acts, if you will. And as you repeat the same imaginal act over and over, then it becomes your imaginal blueprint. It becomes familiar, automatic, and effortless. And soon you start to believe that this reality in front of you is fixed, that you are destined to live this life, to repeat the past, to remain stuck. Soon you begin to feel trapped in an invisible cage of your own making. However, you don't know that you are consistently creating your reality because your unconscious is unconscious. You're not aware that you are in charge. You are the one who has engaged the autopilot, and now the autopilot has hijacked your consciousness. So you need to first remember that you are in charge. You are the captain of this aircraft. You are in charge of engaging and disengaging the autopilot at any point in time. Now, the problem with disengaging the autopilot is that at first you will need to really focus on your actions as you fly your aircraft manually. You will have to talk to air traffic controllers and adjust your height, your speed, your direction, etc. until you know exactly where you are going and can enter the route into the system and then re-engage the autopilot. In other words, when you decide to change your reality and go in the direction of your dreams, at first you will have to disengage your subconscious blueprint and become aware of your every thought. These may feel tiring, stressful, and at times downright pointless. Of course, you won't be immediately landing at your desired destination. The sky all looks the same from where you are, although sometimes, if there are no clouds, you may be able to recognize a different landscape. But most of the time, reality will not give you an immediate confirmation that you are going in the desired or correct direction. The only indication will be the destination that you've entered in or inserted in the program. So you will need to trust that the program is working correctly and that the air traffic controllers will give you the correct indications as you cross each country. Of course, there is one more layer to this metaphor. On the way to your destination, you might encounter some turbulence, but the program would have seen this in advance, and it will not allow you to fly through anything that the aircraft will not be able to sustain. Sometimes you will need to fly through turbulence in order to get to your destination in the quickest way possible. Yet, you can always, at any point, decide to resume control of the aircraft and manually fly over or under the turbulence. The point of this rather long metaphor is this: you are always in charge of your own aircraft, of your reality. Even though while the autopilot is engaged, it feels like someone else is doing the flying, because guess what? Someone else is doing the flying, your subconscious mind. But your subconscious mind can be reprogrammed by you at any point. Even when it feels like you are not in charge, you are always in charge. And if it feels weird and unfamiliar when you first disengage your automatic thoughts and behaviors, this is normal. And if it looks like all your efforts are getting you nowhere, you just have to check that you've entered your desired destination into the program and trust that the air traffic controllers along the way will show you your next step. You might not see your destination ahead of you, but you know that you will get there eventually. So when you're looking for signs or confirmation that you're going in the right direction, it's just as reassurance to keep you motivated along the way. You look at your virtual map and you see yourself getting closer and closer to your destination. But as you get more experience at flying, you will no longer feel the need to check your map in order to know that you're going in the correct direction. You simply set the autopilot in motion and then read a paper or watch a movie or eat some peanuts or have a nap. Now, in real life, machines can malfunction. So there is always a co-pilot to observe the autopilot and to talk to air traffic controllers in case of unexpected events. But in our mind, the subconscious has the role of both the autopilot and the co-pilot. Yet at any point, you can outrank them both and resume control of the aircraft. You are the captain. Remember this: even when it feels like someone else is doing the flying, you are always the captain of your plane. You are always in charge of your destiny. Always. So if you want to ask for signs to make sure that you are going in the right direction, do so. But remember, the signs are not coming from an outer force or deity. Your destiny is not set. Nor can it be predicted by your past. The signs are just like air traffic controllers or road signs. They simply tell you in which direction you are going. What is your mind leading you towards? If you're not happy with the signs that you get in your 3D, you simply adjust your course. Then as you get more experience at manifesting, more experience at flying, you will need fewer and fewer confirmations and signs and practical manifestations in the 3D. And you will know that you are proceeding in the correct direction simply by remembering that you've entered the desired destination in the program. The same goes for manifesting. The more experienced you become at bringing forward your imaginal acts, the less you will need to see evidence right away, and the more you will begin to rely on your feelings as a way of knowing your current location in respect to your final destination. The evidence you will see along the way will then be replaced by faith, trust, or better yet, a deep sense of knowing that you are going where you need to be going. Like everything else, practice makes perfect. This is why I have no interest in convincing people of my theory. You don't have to believe anything I say. In fact, I dare you not to believe it. Put it to the test. Practice resuming control and reprogramming reprogramming your subconscious mind, and then observe the outer changes in your 3D, in your physical reality. Now, let's go back to physics briefly. Einstein discovered that gravity is none other than the bending of the fabric of the universe, the warping of space-time around mass. Excuse me for the oversimplification here. But what he defined as space-time was a four-dimensional fabric with 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. What we experience with our 5 senses is the 3D in space, the 3 dimensions of space, or what we experience with our imagination is the 4th dimension in time. It includes the time dimension. We experience all 4 dimensions in our imagination. In imagination, we can travel in time to a parallel reality in the future or go back in the past, to the past. And the reality we choose in our imagination is the one we select to experience in our 3D in another slice of time. In other words, while our 5 senses enable us to travel through space, our imagination, our inner observation allows us to travel through time. And that time travel has no choice but to express itself in our future 3D, as experienced through our 5 senses. Now let's come to the picture you see here. This picture is an image I took from, this is how it came about. I was in New York, the city of dreams come true, of possibilities and freedom of choice. And I asked for a sign, an unequivocal sign that I was going in the right direction. Not a sign from an outer universe or deity, mind you, but from my own creative consciousness. And as I walked out of my hotel on Lexington and 49th, just 1 block away from the hotel, I saw this writing on the pavement, the one you see in this picture. Dream until it becomes your reality. I laughed out loud. I was just 1 block away from the hotel where supposedly Marilyn Monroe used to live with Joe DiMaggio. And so I stood there in awe of my wonderful imagination, which had led me to this writing on the pavements of Manhattan. I stood there thinking that in another slice of time, Marilyn had probably stood here at this very spot in space. And while Norma Jean was able to create this character that would be loved by the entire world, she could never bring herself to believe that Norma Jean could be loved by anyone as herself. And it was this inner split which eventually tore her apart inside. Here's the thing, we don't need to reject Norma Jean in order to become Marilyn. All we need to do is accept that Marilyn is simply another side of Norma Jean. We are not rejecting our older self in order to become a new version of ourselves. We are simply evolving or shifting to our desired version of ourselves. Norma Jean had to create this whole other character as she couldn't bring herself to love and accept herself as she was. Of course, we can all create a new character if it helps us manifest our desired reality, but unless we learn to love Norma Jean, we will always feel like a fraud. And people in our life will have no choice but to reflect this back to us. That is why self-concept work is so important to manifestation. This is the difference between manifesting superficial change by affirming for others and manifesting lasting change by affirming for ourselves. When we affirm that others love us and accept us, we are creating Marilyn Monroe. When we accept and love ourselves, we are loving Norma Jean, who in turn will be loved by the rest of the world as Norma Jean. The outer world has no choice but to reflect our self-concept and our dominant beliefs. Now think about it. A part of Marilyn was obviously Norma Jean. Yet Norma Jean had to create a whole other character in order to be loved, as she couldn't accept that people would love her for who she was. She could only love herself as Marilyn, and therefore the world reflected her back to her. Your 3D always reflects your inner world, without exception. The only reality is consciousness. Signs in your 3D only show you the content of your consciousness. There is no reality. Consciousness is the only real thing. Whatever you create and accept in consciousness will be reflected out there in your physical reality. To put it in quantum physics terms, observation will select the reality that you are going to observe. The causal relationship is reversed. You don't passively observe a fixed reality that already exists. You observe reality into existence by selecting which reality to observe. So dream until it becomes your reality. This is it for today. If you've come this far and enjoyed this podcast, please remember to share, like, and subscribe. In any case, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful, exciting, surprising, magical, awakened life.